Welcome to Coffee and the Bull.
What is a dog's favorite pizza topping?
Pepperoni?
Pepperoni.
That was a good one. I knew that one.
Yeah, look at you. Look at
that,
you.
right?
What was a special offer at the pet store this week? Buy one cat, get one flea. You
Okay.
get it? Get it like get one free?
Yep.
Get one free? But it says flea.
A lot of vibration going on there. The other one on there was bad.
Yeah. It's trash.
Wasn't a banger.
It's like they let brand new dads write some of these jokes. They're just they're not there yet.
What's up, everybody? Mike and John, Coffee and the Bull. Today we're going to talk about the world doesn't care about you.
Not at all.
And that's a fact. Kind of some of the realizations we've gotten to with life and where we're at now versus where we were at 20 years ago, which is a scary thought to say 20 years ago. But basically, it's part of our intent is to get to some of you younger guys before you make some of the same mistakes we made. Some of it is to get to some of the guys that are right between where we are and where we were at 20, to try to help you see things before you get kicked in the groin with it. And the other half of it is for you guys that are our age or older, that have either seen it already or are starting to experience it and don't really know how to address it. And so this episode is geared mostly towards that realization that we get to a point where we create our own world, and we oftentimes let everything on the outside of that world affect that world at home.
Right.
And when we start making those mistakes and we start letting those outside people in that aren't paying our bills, aren't the ones that we're in relationships with, or, aren't bringing food home, when we start letting them in to our homes and affecting our worlds, that outside world starts to tear apart our inside world. And I know that sounds a little confusing, that there's two worlds, because that's not really how we were taught science. But the reality is you have your world, and then there's the world outside of it.
You got the people who impact your life, and then you got the people who, are just, they're living, you live near each other, but you're not necessarily taking an active role in each other's lives.
Exactly. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, and kind of explaining how through our life and experience that you're going to have people who are directly involved in your life, and, significant others, children, family members, stuff like that are really close into that world. And then you're going to have sometimes the same situation. You could have ex-significant others, or, family members that are family, but they're not, right in the house with you. And how we've got to realize, first off, there's two different worlds. What works for your neighbor Bill doesn't work for you. Him being able to mow every Saturday, and you can't mow every Saturday because you got to work every other Saturday. And I know that's a trivial topic, but when you get wrapped around that axle of trying to live your life based on what everybody outside of your world tells you should do or how you should live your life, you're going to get caught up, and you're going to get to a point where you feel like, I can't please everybody. I can't be successful in all these people's eyes. The reality is, if you don't see yourself successful, what's the point?
Right.
I used to say, especially when I was in the military, there's no point in being on top of the world if you're standing on top of the world by yourself. But you got to get on top of the world. I was going through a real dark spot. I was going through a divorce, and that was a rough time for me. And it came to a point where, we've had this discussion several times, where sometimes you've got to put overtime in at home when you're putting too much overtime in at work. And I was allowing the outside world to affect the inside world. And so that's kind of what we're talking about today. And I know you had an experience where melting ice cream was more important than what you were doing.
Well, we'll get to that one in a little bit. But in the first episode, like we titled it "Welcome to the Shit Show," and
Right.
it was, and it sounds like just a kind of a ridiculous title to begin with, but we were referencing an event that takes place in law enforcement.
Right. Right.
Where you get some of these really green guys. They fresh out of the academy, or it's their first time putting on a duty belt, and riding in a patrol
Yep.
unit. And they've got these ideas of the type of cop they're going to be, or the, for lack of a better term, the delusions of grandeur. Not that they're trying to be Billy Badass or anything like that, but they have an idea of what
Right.
law enforcement is, and what it's like to be the police or whatever. And
They've watched too many episodes of Cops
too
and
many
Training,
episodes of Cops,
Training
too,
Day.
they watch cop cuties on the Rookie, and they
Right.
think that's how it's going to go, and unfortunately, you talk to anybody
that song.
that's actually in the law enforcement realm, that's not how it is.
Right.
And you hate saying it, but it happens to everybody where the sadistic side of you is you sit back, you're like, just wait.
Yep.
You're gonna lose that kid. Like that mindset that you've got right now, you better hold on to as long as you
Yep.
can, because it's going to disappear. And
And I remember mine. It was with you.
right. Well, the what we're referencing in that is the shit show aspect is it's there's always a scene or an instance, whether it be a brutal car crash, or a scene where somebody took the life of somebody else,
Yep.
or they took their own life, or just it could be
Utter chaos.
children are abused, or just absolute chaos. And you see that it's like a switch flips
Yep.
in the new person's brain, and you can see it in their eyes where they're instantly realize they had no clue what they were getting into. Not that they're going to be bad cops, or they're going to leave the profession, but it was like, oh, this is what it's like. Like, this is you go home with the pain, or the fear, or whatever. You have that moment, and when they look to a lot of the newer guys, or the older guys, I like to pull them aside, and hey, how are you, after that scene or whatever, and they're typically like, man, it was, this person had died, this is how it happened, or this took place, or that took place, or whatever, and a lot of cynical guys will be like, oh, well, that's just being a cop, and so like I'll try to take an approach where, look, it's going to be a heavy thing. But the phrase is, "Hey, welcome to the shit show, man." Like,
Right.
This is what you put your boots on for. This is why,
Yep.
why you press that uniform. You got already. You went through all the training, everything. This is what you actually signed up for. It's not what you see in Hollywood. It's not what you expect as a kid. You're not going to make everybody's day better.
Right.
And for me, that really hit me. Outside of the law enforcement realm, because that's not that concept is not unique to law enforcement or
No,
first
it's not
responders
at
or
all.
military. Because I know we've got a lot of people who've reached out to us who, hey, they're not cops, they're not firemen or EMS workers,
Yep.
or any of that. And we're still to relate to them that's not just a law enforcement exclusive event. And what I mean by that is I was a nerd in high school. When I say nerd, like I had straight A's. I was on the honor roll. I while I was in high school, I was taking college classes, doing really, really good in the college classes. By the time I graduated, they didn't have any more math classes to offer at my high school or whatever. So I was taking college classes, ran out of the amount of those that they'd allow me to take, and and I remember one of the English teachers. She was going down around the room. We're all seniors at the time or whatever, and she was asked her, hey, what do you plan on doing when you get out of high school or whatever? What type of career do you want? And that happens, everybody, your aunts, uncles, grandparents, they, hey, what do you want to do when you get out of school?
Right, right.
What do you want to do with your life? And I remember thinking to myself, because you got some guys, they're going to follow in their dad's footsteps of, being, working at a tire shop or, a mechanic shop. One guy was selling, going to sell cars, like different career paths. And I remember, man, I was arrogant. Like, I wasn't confident. Like I was a nerd. I was definitely a nerd.
Right.
But so I was not socially confident, but I was arrogant in my brain. And so I was like, man, look, I'm smart. I'm an intelligent person. Like I've already done, X number of college classes in high school. Like I've got this. I'm going to go be an aeronautical engineer is what I want to do. And I remember, like when I said that, a couple of people in the class was like, what is that? And I'm like, sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, God has gifted me with this brain. Obviously, I know what I can do, and I can go build an airplane.
Right.
And so that was going to be my career path. I was going to go make a crap ton of money because at the time the common thing that you would hear was, hey, if you don't go to college, you're going to be a failure. There's no other path to success except through going through college.
Right.
And I fell into that trap. That's a bunch of hog crap. But,
right.
So I taken I go to Southeastern here in Hammond, and was going to take and do my pre-engineering classes there, and then transfer to LSU about the beginning of the junior year is what the plan was, and it was just going to save some money, for scholarship stuff like that.
Right.
And so I was like, all right. First day of college comes up, like I got my book sack, got my can-do attitude on and everything, and I go into my first class. It was chemistry 151, and I walked in there. I'm about to rock it out, and I sit down. And about 30 minutes into that class, I was like, I'm not doing this. Like I'm not. I'm changing.
This ain't for me.
I didn't drop the class. I should have. I should have dropped the class, but I didn't. I got up out of that class first day and went and changed my major. Like declared a completely different major because I was like, there's no way. There's no way I'm going to do this. I cheated in that class and still failed. Failed the test. I had done so bad.
I cheated and I failed.
It was bad, man. Like I could not grasp it. And I'm not going to say it was a professor. It was 100. And I tried. I will give it that. I tried, but it was so much different. Obviously than high school. But I think I passed that class. But around, I got the number. Like the lowest D that you could possibly get.
Right,
I was stoked, man. Like I fought for that one at the tail end of that class. Like I gave it everything I had. But and that was one of the moments where I was like, hey, when you look back now, all right, or honestly, about the time I'd say you turn about 23, 24, nobody asks you ever again, hey, what type of career path, what do you want to do when you get done with this starter job or whatever, like nobody cares, and it was a wake-up moment for me right after college where I realized nobody gave a crap what I was going to do with my life. Nobody cared, if I was going to be successful or not. Nowadays, nobody cares if I pay my bills or not, except the bill collector.
Right.
He cares, but when you look at it, and before a lot of people are like, no, I care. No, you really don't.
You don't.
No, we all take care of ourselves, and we don't take care of other people, and that's, I understand, like, hey, it's, you not talk about charity work and stuff like that, but there's a wake up moment where you go, hey, I'm legit in this on my own.
Yep.
I'm not getting through, nobody's building me up anymore, because you get a lot of that, especially in high school, if you're, a good football player, good baseball player, or, good, like you always have different categories of people who help build you up. But once you hit that adult realm, man, nobody really tries to put you on a pedestal, and it becomes this waking up moment, and that's I think why you have depression is a big thing amongst college age kids, or people who are just new into the workforce, is it's so drastically different than what they grew up with, because all the things that you were taught in high school, that were going to matter don't matter,
Yep.
I remember at my graduation, I got like a bunch of awards and everything, and none of that mattered at all. I thought, that was my time to shine.
Right.
And none of it really mattered. And so it turned into this big thing where you start questioning, hey, is any of this really worth it? Is what I'm spending my life trying to do, is it really worth it?
Yeah.
And so it develops that mindset, or develops the idea that, hey, the world doesn't care about you, and that, I had an example, like John had brought up one time, or earlier in the episode. I had an incident where a state police officer was killed on one of our shifts, and I remember a couple of days later, we got set up to we're doing the funeral procession, and so our shift was designated to block off different roads for the procession route. And it's, for those of you who don't know, it's very common for first responders, military funerals, things like that, where there'll be a massive turnout. And it's not that they're any better than anybody else. But it's a massive funeral. Like you talk about, you'll have 10 to 20,000 people show up at some of these funerals.
Yeah.
And so if you don't put if you don't shut everything down and have a specific procession, then you run into people getting in wrecks,
Yep.
something like that, and so. And it congests the city for an extended period of time.
A side note on that, because a lot of people don't actually know this, but if you ever come across a funeral procession, it does not matter whose procession it is.
Just move over and get
right.
some respect,
The common courtesy is to pull over to the side of the road and allow the procession to pass you, not to be in a hurry and cut in front of it and everything else. And I know people are going to disagree with me, but that is the general rule of thumb, and it's not really something that's talked about very, very much anymore. Like, I mean, that was something I learned as a kid when I'm like, Mom, why are we pulling over? And she goes, well, that person's life is over. We're going to show them the respect they deserve to get to their final resting place. So just heads up out there in, internet land. If you happen to come across a funeral, typically if you're in the funeral, all the hazard lights on your vehicle are turned on. Just pull to the shoulder, let them pass. It's easier.
Before I was super rudely interrupted by something.
Sincerely apologize.
Did have nothing to do with my story.
What?
So anyway, I'm charged with blocking off this intersection,
right?
And it's the procession was only I say a quarter of a mile from me, so like it's coming up the road, and I remember this guy was mad because I wouldn't let him get by, and it's because hey, if I let you by, you're going into the procession,
right?
And so like I tried to explain to him, I was trying to be cordial, but also. I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of in my feelings a little bit because I knew the guy who had passed away, and so like I'm trying to be cordial to him, and I said, look, you can't go this way because we got this procession going on. But if you turn around and go to this road, you can cut across the back way, and it'll get you right to where you're going.
Right.
In a couple minutes longer. And I remember this dude started cursing me out. And I'm not talking about a young guy. This guy was maybe 40, 50 years old. And he is cursing me out like a dog, because he's got ice cream in his car, and I'm allowing it to melt because I think I'm better than anybody. I'm like, dude, I'm just here. This is my job right now. Like, that's all I can do. There's a reason I'm not seeing you this way because hey, this is blocked off. If you get in this route, you can't get out the route because everything's shut. And so yeah, I like I said, I was in my feelings, and so. Luckily, it's not the employer that I work for now. But everything that dude gave me, I wound up turning around and giving it right back. I wound up logging that complaint. I earned that one. But no, there's this thing where as you start living life, you start looking around and you're like, man, it's you legit are in this by yourself for the most part. And I'm not, we're not solitarily, but there's the idea that, hey, it takes a village to raise a kid. Sometimes that village is really, really small.
Yeah.
And especially for some of our single dads and stuff like that, like you've got an uphill battle that you've got to fight with that because there's not a lot of support for guys. And what I mean by that is, you can't turn on Facebook or hop on Facebook right now and go to different rants and raves pages or whatever, and you always hey, I'm a single mom and need this and need that or whatever, and you get a lot overwhelming support on that. If you were to get on there and say, hey, I'm a single dad, I need money for groceries or whatever, well, now all of a sudden you're a deadbeat dad.
Right.
Or whatever, and it doesn't matter the circumstances. And I'm not talking bad about single moms. That's not what I'm going at. This is a guy's podcast, so we'll approach it from the guy's standpoint. But you're sitting there and you have to go through life and all this be by yourself, or do all this by yourself because while there are people there who don't mind giving you a little push every now and then. For the majority of your career and the majority of how you spend your time on this earth, you're going to be alone, or you're going to be struggling. And a lot of us, we struggle in silence. We don't talk about it. We don't bring it up to other people. And again, that's kind of the reason for this podcast is, you do have this struggle and there's not a lot of support out there. So how do we start changing some of that? I don't, not saying I necessarily have an answer for that.
Right. And that's one of the craziest things, and this is something that I noticed in my life, is that you can't always gear yourself towards the people you think would make the best friends or the best, people you can communicate with because, Mike just told you about, how you were in high school. We were total opposites in high school. I was barely getting by, not because I wasn't intelligent enough to pass. I didn't care. Right. Like I had... By my freshman year, I had lost my older brother. He had passed away. My junior year, I had lost an uncle, and my sophomore year, I lost my uncle, and my junior year, I lost my mother. And so I just didn't care. Grades were whatever. It was, I just got to make it to 18 and be on my own. And I'll tell you right now, the only reason that I passed and was able to graduate was my senior year. I had a teacher. His name was Mr. Knight, 6'8", super tall, black guy. He played for the Phoenix Suns before he blew out his knee. And then he came back to our small town and he became a math teacher. And I remember going to him, man, and I was bad. Like, I was like, if I showed up to his class, he would give me the credit for the day. Like, that's how bad it was. And so I came to him. I said, Mr. Knight, man,
That's typically how that works.
Yeah, right.
Up, you get credit for the day.
Right. That's all he gave me.
Stupid.
Like, for the work. Like, he didn't make me do anything. And because he knew I didn't care. He knew there was no reason to put any effort into me because he wasn't going to get anything back from me. And so I just came to him one day and was just straight open. I was like, look, Mr. Knight, I'm failing your class. I need a 69.8 to be able to graduate high school. And he was like, okay, what do you plan to do when you graduate high school? And I said, jail or the military. That's where I'm at. And he said, you'd actually join the military. And I was like, I've already done all the paperwork and everything else. And he was like, all right, you have 4 weeks left in my class. You come to my house every Saturday and mow my lawn. And I will make sure you graduate high school. And that's legitimately how I graduated high school. I mowed that dude's lawn 3 Saturdays in a row. And on that 4th Saturday, he was like, here you go. Dude gave me a 69.9 just so I could graduate with a D. and like that's how I graduated high school. It was legitimately one of those things where he as an educator knew that I was not mentally or emotionally in it. I did not care. I wasn't going to go to college. I wasn't going to try to do anything successful other than the military. That was all I had. And I learned very quickly, taking the ASVAB, everything else, and I scored high. Like, I scored phenomenally high, where they were like, you could do any job you want. And my dad, God love him, because my dad was like, look, son, I don't want you to do what I did in the military. I don't want you to get stuck trying to find a job. I want you to go to a field, like, go be an airplane mechanic or a helicopter mechanic or, something that will get you further through the door, because believe it or not, a lot of military helicopter mechanics actually go into supervisory roles in that field in the civilian side of it, and a lot of there's a specific task you can do where you can actually become a testing pilot through that military program. And my dad was really pushing me for it. He was like, bro, you become a helicopter pilot, when you get out, like, that's bank. That's stupid money paycheck. He's like, and you could live even better than I live. And, of course, being dumb and naive, I was like, nope, I'm going to be in the infantry. I'm going to go carry guns and do all the cool stuff you see on TV. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're thinking about joining the military, that's bull butter. That doesn't happen. You don't do that. You spend 80% of your military career training.
Beautification.
Yeah. There's 80% training, at least 19% of cleaning up. I've swept sand on sand. I've filled more sandbags than I can count. You become a person that hates camping, because I'm going to tell you right now, you will never catch me sleeping in a tent again. It won't happen. I have no desire to do it. But you get into positions where you realize no one cares. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where we're at, is like the military. Nobody cared above you. If what you're doing in your day-to-day doesn't affect my day-to-day, I don't care what you do. Right. And that's the mentality we have now is, or I have now, is if what you're doing doesn't affect my day-to-day, I don't care. And in law enforcement, the welcome to the shit show moment, I had mine with you, and it was, a lot of people think the guys from the military kind of gravitate towards law enforcement because there is a similarity in the camaraderie. There is a similarity in the uniform and appearance and rank structure and things like that. But I'm here to tell you, it is not the same as far as the dramatic effect goes when you get into those chaotic scenes. And I did over 10 years in the military. I've been in chaos. I've been in war. I've been in these hectic situations where you had to be in control. Even if you were scared, shitless, you had to be in control. And the law enforcement kind of equivalent is not the same. It's completely different. Like I said, I vividly remember our moment where it was like, oh shit, this is real life. This is happening right now. This is like, a mile from my house. Like this is all stuff that's where my brain went. This is real. This is what you decided to do, and it gravitated. So when we went to that second place that we worked. I remember some of the younger guys, and we were in a pretty chaotic scene at one point, and I remember seeing your response to getting somebody's mind on track, and my response, and because we had two newer officers that were with us, and when you're in a chaotic situation, your tone of voice changes, your demeanor changes. You're not aggressive over the top, but you're very direct, and I'm focusing you on what task I need you to do so that you don't mess this up. And in my case, I revert back to a different tactic where it's now's not the time, get to work, and we have a different approach, but we're basically doing the exact same thing in that moment. And I've noticed with the people that gravitate towards us, the aftermath is what I like to call it, of the situation's over, we're now somewhere else, and they're going, man, I don't know how to deal with this, or I'm still shaking, or I don't know what to do.
Right, the adrenaline dumps.
Right, and we have that in the bag because it's like we've done this so often, and when you go from the one place where it was non-stop all night long, you didn't know if you were going to a single vehicle car crashing in a parking lot with a little fender bender to the fatality over here or the murder over here, or I don't know if we can say that on all these things, but we would go from those to the second place we went where it was like not nearly as often or as common.
Right.
And so it was easier to take that step back as senior, more experienced people and be like, hey, take a breath, eat this, drink this, let's talk this through.
And I think that's kind of one of the things that is an area that needs to be improved. And
it does.
It's not necessarily just law enforcement. It's honestly majority of the career fields where it's male dominated fields because
right.
It's it could be welders in the plants,
right.
Or the refineries. For those of you who don't know what a plant is, it's typically your more seasoned guys.
Right.
Look at the new guys and be like, "Oh my God, this this is just down,
yeah.
scraping the bottom of the barrel."
Right.
Ran out of the
we
barrel.
just hire anybody.
And so we send a lot of people send some hate to the new guys, and it's not necessarily intentional. It's just kind of avoidance. It's like,
right.
He's dumb. He's not going to learn anything. He doesn't. This ain't meant for him. Well, it
right.
can be. You just got to pull him to the side. And that's what you run into with a lot. Or what I've seen in law enforcement is a lot of your more seasoned guys who is no fault of their own. They've been through a lot of different things that have changed their mentality. Where now they don't want to deal with a lot of newer people because they don't want to see that ambition change from
right.
I want to help people to I just want to go home. They don't want to see that transition take place, and so a lot of seasoned guys are they take the approach that it's not worth teaching them anything or
right.
whatever, and so they hold off and let them kind of experience it on their own. And when they do say something, when they're like, "Hey man, this really bothered me," or I don't know how I feel about this. It's just a lot, It's or they go to comment, I remember there was an instance where I had a shooting and one of the seasoned guys was talking to I'm talking to this dude. I think it was like third or fourth day on shift, and he's sitting there talking about how they should have handled this shooting or whatever. And I remember one of the seasoned guys, basically, hey, shut your mouth. And he was saying, he said a lot more colorful words than that, but we're trying to keep it clean. He's like, hey, shut your mouth. You don't know nothing. You don't know shit about shit.
Right.
He's and he made him go sit back in his unit and all this other stuff. And it's like you take that approach. Well, now you can't go up to that new guy and tell him anything. Now
right.
You're not going to teach him anything because he doesn't want to deal with you.
Right. You just bad dogged him.
Right.
In front of everybody.
And so that's why I like our approach with newer people, where you try to pull them to the side. Hey, this is what you're going to go through. Hey, you're cold right now, even though it's 100 degrees outside.
Right,
and You're
right.
shaking. That's because your adrenaline's working out of you and stuff like that. So yeah, it's one of the things where it's unfortunately that's a big area where we can use a lot of improvement.
Right.
Is trying to take and focus on some the newer guys coming up behind us. But one of the things I like and talk about nobody really the world doesn't care about you is and you'll see it right now because this is actually New Year's week. You'll see it here in just a minute.
Right.
It's
Right.
Hey, this is my New Year's what do they call
Resolution?
them? Resolutions.
Yeah.
New Year's resolution.
New Year, new me.
new me. Yeah, they've been doing New Year, new me for 20 something
Right.
100 years.
I can tell you right now, if you know me, it's a new year.
Right.
I'm the same old me, and I'm going to keep telling you exactly how I think and feel.
Watching, if I was a meaner person, I would hop on like Facebook or whatever, and the different people who post, "Hey, New Year, new me. This is what I'm going to lose this much weight, or I'm going to do this. I'm going to buy this car, or buy this house, or propose, or whatever the goal is." I always want to be like, "So how's that going?" Like, come 2 weeks in, I want to. You don't even have to wait till like summer.
Right.
Just wait till like January 3rd. Be like, "Oh, how's that going?" "Oh, I'm having a cheat day."
Bro, I catch.
Been going to the gym or plan on going to the gym, getting that rock star body.
Bro,
you got a cheat day on on January 3rd.
Right, I catch myself so often, and look, I'm not a body shamer. I don't make fun of other people's bodies.
He makes fun of mine
all the time because you're my friend. But I always feel bad when it's somebody who's clearly overweight and they're doing everything they can to lose weight, and they post like a before and after. Like, oh, I've lost 40 pounds, and they show like the before and after, and I don't see a difference, and I have to stop myself because I really want to be like, do more, but like I don't because that's being a dick, and I don't want to be that guy. But I think that the majority of the problem with the whole New Year's New Me is we as people are geared, like our brain is geared for immediate results. Mm-hmm. You cannot, I don't care who you are, you anticipate an immediate result. And when you don't get that immediate result, it's disheartening. So you're like, I'm done. I tried it. It didn't work out. I gave it 2 weeks. Well,
my metabolism's bad.
Right.
No,
I'm
just really
big
like
boned.
cheeseburgers.
Right, that's what it is. I like
that's
cheeseburgers.
That's the only reason I haven't lost any weight. I just like cheeseburgers too much.
So the thing about it is like, when you wake up and you start doing your tasks for the day, I'm going to go wash the dishes. And as soon as the dishes are done, you put in the work and now you have a result, and you didn't have to take days to do it unless you're at my house because I don't wash the dishes. I hate it. But I think that's why a lot of people quit, because you get that ambitious, like, it's a new year and I'm going to start over, and then you don't. You don't follow through because you went to the gym for 2 weeks and you got nowhere with it. And
well, so let's take a little bit different approach. And this is, if you're about to change the station or channel, don't do it. Let's take it from a standpoint. Some people don't follow through with their resolutions because, hey, they don't have self-control.
Right.
Or, they set an unrealistic goal or whatever. But let's say it is something, where, somebody's trying to better themselves and they just keep falling short. I think sometimes it is where you can have these ideals, especially coming, you're at the tail end of the Christmas season.
Right.
You just, had a great time with your family, or hopefully you had a great time with your family. Right. The New Year's bank around the corner, you want it to be, obviously we want 2025 to be better than 2024,
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like that's how it's going, but you've got guys who, legitimately are trying to better themselves, whether it's be, hey, I want to move out of this apartment into another apartment.
Right.
It's going to be a little bit more expensive, but it's going to give, the two kids, they'll each have their own room in the apartment or whatever. Like I can appreciate them, trying to set that as a goal, because he's trying to better everything for his family. And then, as he's doing that, he takes and he gets laid off at work, or his hours get cut, or not necessarily that example, but you're sitting there and you're doing what you can to make it a better year, and then you get a call, hey, so and so passed away.
Right.
Or that cough that you've got is now actually some disease that you're going to need treatment for. And it's like you can have all these, I don't want to say fantasy type ideals, but these aspirations to better yourself, and then the world just doesn't take a break on beating you down, man. Especially like we saw the other morning, like it's Christmas it's the day after Christmas, and these people get the worst news ever, and it's like the beatdown doesn't take a break because it's a holiday season,
Right.
And so that's when you get some of these guys who they're just like, man, what's the point? What's the point of doing all this? I'm trying to better myself. I'm trying to do this or that, and you can't seem to catch a break, and it's because the world legitimately doesn't care about you.
No.
But that's the world who doesn't care about you. Like we talked about before we got into this episode, kind of pre-gaming this is obviously we're not going to leave the listeners with this message that says, oh, the world doesn't care about you. Let's all
Right. Good luck.
drink the Kool-Aid and wait for the comment. We're not teaching that approach.
Right.
Like John was explaining in the beginning, there's a whole separate world that you got inside you and with you that we overlook, right?
Yep.
Because what it is, if I go to work, I'm like, man, none of this matters. I don't know why I'm doing this job. My bills are still coming due. All my money's going towards bills or food or clothes or whatever. For me, it's about the time we get a couple extra dollars. My son needs something for school because heaven forbid they not have 1,000 different dress days throughout the year. Or he breaks his glasses, or needs new shoes, or whatever comes up. It's so easy to be like, what's the point of doing this job or going to work and doing all this, and you really hit a spot where you feel alone, and what happens is that care comes home with you.
Yeah.
It leaves work, it leaves outside the house, and it comes inside the house, and so then you wind up, despite hey, you got your kids who are stoked about seeing you when you walk through the door.
Yep.
You come in filthy as can be, working underneath a car all day or whatever, or cutting grass. Look, if you want to smell a dead animal or something worse than a dead animal, let me cut grass all day long. Dude, when I'm telling you, I smell worse than a gym locker, man. It's bad. And so I come inside. My son doesn't care. He's
Right.
still going to run up, give me a hug, and then he's going to be like, oh, you stink, but
Right,
still,
right.
He's still going to run up. He's going to give me a hug. He's going to love on me. My wife's not going to necessarily do that. She's happy I'm home.
Right.
Depending on what I've done. But for the most part, she's happy I'm home. Now she'll tell me, hey, look, you stink. Get away from me.
Right.
Go take a shower, and then, she'll give me a kiss afterwards or whatever. But so many times we overlook the fact that we're allowing the work world to come home to
Right.
to change our mindset at the house. And honestly, you need to be not bipolar, but almost two different personalities.
Light
one
switch.
one at work, one at home, because the people at home are going to be the ones with you. It's said over and over. Hey, your boss can replace you. Before the funeral.
Right. Right.
Meanwhile, your family's crushed. That they're at your funeral. It's honestly, that rings true.
Yep.
You got the people who are around you, who you can't replace them. They can't replace you. You're invested in each other, just by living with each other day in and day out.
Yep.
And so many times we take our depression from outside and we bring it inside the house. And now, that's where you get guys who, they fall out of love with their wife or something like that, and they just say, hey, look, we joke about it and we'll go grab some milk, and they never come back,
Right.
And we joke about it, but honestly, I think that's a lot of what's going on in guys' brain. We don't wake up just to be jerks,
Right.
But you just get surrounded by this
Negative energy.
negative energy, this thought that, hey, you're 100% alone, or that there's no point to all this and nobody cares about you. Well, the world doesn't care about you, but your family cares about you.
Right.
The world doesn't care about you, but your friends care about you. I've got a very, very small group of friends, honestly. Like, I got people that I talk to and everything like that I'll answer the phone for them. They'll answer the phone for me. But for the actual, no matter what, people that I can be unapologetically vulnerable with, it's a very, very small group.
Right.
But I'd like to say that most of us have that. Some people don't. Some people, they're either super introverted, or something
Right.
like that. Typically there's somebody somewhere we overlook it.
Right. Someone or something. Because I know there's some people who got a
I know
pet.
some people who they've got a dog, and man, God help you if you hurt that dog.
Right. Right. You better John Wick it. But that all ties back into the world doesn't care about you, and I'm going to tell you right now, if you're going to go out and you're going to say, hey, New Year, I'm going to do this resolution or I'm going to do this, shut up. Don't tell anybody. Don't post it on
Do it
Facebook.
for you,
Don't
not for glamour.
exactly. Keep your mouth shut about it, because what's going to happen is, for those of you that are overweight and you say, I'm going to lose 100 pounds in 6 months or whatever your goal is, you're going to have somebody.
That's a lot of weight in 6 months.
Bro, I don't know. Crazier things have happened. You're going to have somebody who says you can't do that. I mean, I love Mike to death. He just did it. He was like, man, 100 pounds in 6 months. Not saying he's wrong. Maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But it's the same thing. When back in a long time ago when I was in the military, I was overseas, and I told my first sergeant, I was like, hey, boss, I'm going to quit smoking. And he was like, no, you're not. I made it 3 days before he was like, you're going to start smoking again because, number one, you're an a-hole. Number two, you're not focused. You're not doing anything because you've trained your body to take a break. And that break is that cigarette. And by you saying, no, if I take this break, I'm going to go smoke, you're not giving your brain the what it's used to. So you're going to start again.
Right.
And, you're going to keep going. And it wasn't in my best interest to quit smoking for me to continue to smoke. It wasn't in my best interest. Obviously, smoking's bad, and I shouldn't have been doing it. But it was in the best interest of the mission that we had at hand. We were in a third world country, and, obviously I needed to be focused and on my game. And it isn't that he didn't care about me, because he did, but he also knew that by me quitting doing that,
You're distracted.
I'm off of it. Yeah, my game's not on point. And so in reality, while it may have in the long run harmed me, in the short run, in the current situation, it was the best thing for me was to not do that. And so that's kind of where I'm going, is the moment you start telling people what your goals and your ambitions and everything else are, there's people out there, they're just going to shoot you down. And then there's the people that you're going to see through that are like, you can do it. And you're like, nah, that was fake. You don't actually believe in me. Right. You're just saying that to patronize me. So if you're going to make a resolution or a goal or whatever, keep that to yourself. If you've got somebody in your life, and I know for me, like one of the things that affected me a lot was in a relationship, I know in my brain, I want that person that I'm with to have the ability, if they want to work, they can go work. And if they don't want to work, they don't have to work. I will figure it out so they can make that decision. That has actually bit me in the backside more times than not, because I get myself into this bind where I'm doing all of the providing, and the moment they're like, well, we can't do this because we don't have the money for that or this, and then I'm like, okay, so I'm just worthless and I'm not making enough money. That's not what they said, but that's how I felt. And as a man, you don't want to come back to your significant other and go, hey, look, I know I told you, a year ago that you didn't have to work, but
need you to go get a job.
Right. The power bill had come in, and the thing about our bank is there's no money in it, so I'm going to need you to get, a job and help out. And so that's where we've got to cut out the outside world and just keep it on the inside world. Otherwise, we're just going to drown ourselves, letting all of these outside sources come in and tell us what's up and what's going on. And it gets to a point where you start to feel alone because you're so afraid of telling the outside world the truth about what's going on the inside of your world, because you don't want that judgment. You fear that negativity that they're going to come at you with. But you condition yourself to not tell them, and you don't tell the people inside your world because you're worried about how they're going to see you and how they're going to affect, make a move from there. Because, the guy who gets laid off or doesn't make enough money or can't do what he needs to do, he doesn't want to go tell his spouse that. He doesn't want to say, I'm failing, because now you risk another loss. Like, okay, so she's going to look at me like a failure. She's going to walk out of my life. And then you tie that in, because every man knows that the United States as a whole, judicial system, I don't think it's the judicial system, whatever the court system is that handles divorces and custodies and all that, we know that's geared against us. We know as men that's going to bite us in the butt. So you're looking at, if I tell her I'm a failure and she sees me as a failure, she's walking away. She's taking the kids. She's taking half of everything I own. She's taking the house, the car, everything. So we start to do the bottle up, and we take our world, we make a third world. We have that outside world, we have the inside world, and then we have the inside world where we close ourselves off. Yeah. And so a lot of guys, you see it on TikTok, you see it on Facebook, everybody's saying, like, I'm alone, I never realized how lonely I was. You got to ask yourself, did you close the doors and make yourself that way? Did you put yourself in that boat? And it comes from where I come from, where my standpoint is coming from, is we recognize that there's an outside world, that you can let them look through the window, we shouldn't let them through the door. That inside world, if you're not willing to let them completely be inside your world, what are you doing? Calibrate and ask yourself, if I can't trust this person to be unapologetically vulnerable with, why are they on my inside world? Why are they not on the outside of my world? And as a man, I know that there are things that we can't tell our wife or our significant others or whatever, but you got to ask yourself why you can't do that. And I know some married men will say, well, the moment I tell her, hey, this is what makes me hurt, or this is what makes me vulnerable, we fear that coming back up 6 months later. And it's human nature to be in an argument and go straight for the throat. Like, it is what it is. I can't fault you there. But if whatever that is causing a turmoil in your relationship, find a way to go about mending that fence. Maybe not giving the full details or the full, problem, but you got to mend that fence to the point that they can feel comfortable and you can feel comfortable letting them in. And so I just want to clarify, if you're at a point where you ask yourself, or you're surrounded by people, or you're in busy places or whatever, and you say, man, I feel alone in this situation, start asking yourself, why are you alone? Why are you feeling that way? And if that's the case, and I know for me it used to be, I hated going with my ex-wife to work functions because I had nothing in common with these people. Like, none of them made anything that appealed to me as far as conversation-wise or personal-wise. And some of them probably could have been good people, but I know we went out for a birthday for one of our coworkers one night, and they had rented a party bus, they had rented out a restaurant, they'd rented out a bunch of rooms at the casino in Baton Rouge, and it was supposed to be this big, glorious thing, and I'll be honest with you, the ex had, like, made this big deal about, like, look, the kids will be with my mom, and we're going to be at this hotel room, like, some things might happen, and basically made it out to be that we were going to engage in some adult content with each other, not other people, just clarifying. So my brain had been, she knew that I didn't want to do this at all, and that was really the only way that I was going to go in with it. When, I'm an adult. It is what it is. So we go to the birthday thing at this restaurant, and it was terrible. I literally sat at a table full of people, hated everyone, hated every moment of it. It was just the worst thing ever. I didn't have anything in common with any of these people. Get on the party bus, and there's another guy and his wife on the bus, and this guy ended up being a veteran. Cool. We ended up having something to talk about. Things were going good. Everything was fine. We get to the casino, and this young lady whose birthday it is so drunk, she gets up to walk to the bar to get another drink, throws up all over this dance floor that she's walking down, does not stop, keeps going, gets to the bar. She's so drunk that I'm standing there telling a bartender, like, don't serve her anything else. Like, this is dangerous. Nah, they didn't care. Gave her another drink. She goes back, sits down next to the trash can, looks at everyone and goes, I'm going to throw up again. Looks at the trash can and just throws up on the floor. And instead of doing anything about it, she just got up and moved. And I was just like, this is not my crowd. This is not the people I want to be around. And in that moment, like, I felt so lonely that, like, the person that I'm with, like, I'm married to this person. We're a partner. And you don't even realize that I'm unhappy. You don't realize that I don't want to be here. And that was one of the moments in that relationship where I had to ask myself, like, do I really belong here? Do I belong with this person? Is this somebody who I should confide in and be a part of? And got up from that. And like, I literally just disconnected from all of it. I went to one of the slot machines, and I sat there for like a good 2 hours and was like, I can't leave because she's intoxicated, and I can't leave my intoxicated wife by herself, for numerous reasons. So when it was all said and done, time to go, I go get her and go back to the hotel room. Now, my brain is still set on, I know that I'm supposed to get lucky. Get to the hotel room. I go to the bathroom, walk back out of the room. She's completely dressed, passed out. Dead to the world, passed out. I didn't sleep. I was that angry that I was just like, you've put me through just bullshit tonight. And I am that angry at you that I'm not even going to sleep. So I waited until she woke up the next morning and she's like, hey, we're going to go get breakfast. We're going to do X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, we'll find a ride home. And I left. I was like, nope, I don't even want to talk to you. Got in my truck, drove home. I sat in my driveway with her mom and my kids inside my house. I sat in my driveway for 2.5 hours. Just angry. Was not on the phone with anybody. I had the music turned up. Not loud enough to bother anybody, just loud enough where I didn't have to hear anything outside of that truck. And I sat in that truck for 2 hours to the point I had to leave and go get gas just to come back. And by the time I came back, I had calmed down enough that I could walk inside. And my ex-mother-in-law, she's like, and I was like, don't ask. Don't ask me if I'm okay, because I will come unglued at this point. And it was in those moments that I realized that the people that should have been asking, are you okay? Mm-hmm. Couldn't have cared less. Had no desire, was too worried about being the social, popular, circle of people to realize that somebody who was willing to do the things that I had done for her was unhappy with the situation. And I understand in relationships, we've got to step into that outside world and we've got to do things to appease that significant other or that partner. But partners have to start looking back and going, is this person happy and comfortable in the situations that I'm asking them to be in? You and I aren't typical guys that can go and be at the black tie events. We can do it.
Yourself.
Hey, let me finish.
I can do black tie like nobody's business. I'll be so sharp I can cut through concrete. Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We can do it.
Bow tie looking like James Bond over here.
We can do it. But the company that we do it with is what makes it comfortable or uncomfortable.
No. So here's the thing. I wouldn't invite you to black tie.
What?
Because
why not?
I can handle it. I'm comfortable in there.
I can do it.
I doubt it.
I didn't say I wanted to do it. That's the difference.
Next episode.
That's the difference.
So,
okay. All right. You know what? I say we find, look, out there in internet land, if you have a black tie event anywhere in the Hammond, Louisiana, or I would say within 60-mile radius, okay? An hour of travel.
Ballers on a budget.
You getting 60 miles. That's all we got. All right. You having a black tie event, any fancy dress event. That's what it is. All right. We will come to your event. All right. And you let us know who can cut concrete, as he put it.
So sharp. Looking so sharp, you cut concrete.
That's the dumbest, most perfect expression I've ever heard. It's good. We will come to your black tie event just to prove a point. All right. But my whole point is we as individuals, I'm not saying men or women, you've got to focus on your inner circle and make sure that not only are you paying attention to that inner circle and what's making the world, your inner world, what's making it spin is doing the same thing for you. If to keep it on a fair spectrum, if you're looking at your significant other, your friends and everything else, and you're putting everything into it to keep your world spinning and everybody's happy, you got to make sure that everybody that's in that world is also helping spin in the same direction. They're not dragging wheels or messing up the rotation of your world. And you got to start closing out the outside world. We've got to keep that separate from the inside world, because that inside world is fragile. That's your space. It's just like your house. It's just like your vehicle. That's your safe, inner place where you can be yourself, unapologetically yourself. Where I'm comfortable walking around in my house without pants on, because it's my home. I don't want the neighbor to come over and I'm standing in my boxers on my front yard. That's that outside world semblance. But I just went on a little thing there. throwing a little razzle dazzle, some family life, and I don't know. You can drag this out, buddy. You got 7 more minutes to make an hour.
Guys, I want to say thank y'all for
Nope.
taking a moment and watching this episode. If you think we're on point, let us know.
Yep.
If there's something you disagree with, or you want to throw another thought process into it, or something else for us to consider, because we're not perfect. We're definitely fallible.
I'm glad
creatures.
you brought that up. Because
Send us an email. It's coffeeandthebull@yahoo.com. We look forward to hearing from you, and we will definitely respond to you. And even if you don't want to send an email, send a comment, whether it be through Facebook or TikTok, or any of those platforms, whatever you're listening in. Because we've had somebody reach out to us, and we're kind of having a conversation with them. We'll notify y'all that in upcoming episodes. But we want to make this podcast where it's you with us, not just listening to us. We want to have an impact on what you let you have a voice in it, and have a helping hand in making some of the content. Because that's what this is all about, is us having a conversation. We don't need to be afraid to have a basic conversation with each other. So
before we go off, there was a comment on one of our TikToks that I wanted to address really
good job
fast.
on having that ready to go.
I got it right here. So on the old TikTok, a gentleman by the name of Travis Long stated, real men don't need a pile of friends. We need 3 dudes we can call and know that no matter what it is, that we can call them. One of them is en route or has an answer to the issue we have. So his thought process is that we need at least 3 friends that we can do that with. Not saying he's wrong, because sometimes you can find that guy in one guy. Sometimes you do need 3. So just want to let you know, Mr. Long, we got your comment. We did read it. We agreed with you. That's why we didn't comment back, but we definitely love the comment. And look, if you give us comments, you give us shout outs, you give us whatever it is, we're going to address you. We're going to let you know that we saw it. We're going to let you know that we appreciate you. We love the feedback that you've given us. So as Mike's already said, coffeeandthebull@yahoo.com. Shoot us that email. Like, follow, subscribe, and share. You can catch us on the YouTube, the Facebook, Spotify, TikTok, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. We're on Instagram. Forgive me, I'm not really good at posting on that, and we are currently working on, what's the X one? Is that Twitter? Is that what X is?
I think so.
Yeah, we're working on our Twitter page.
No, you're not.
I am. It's up. It's just not no content's out on it yet. I'm still building and putting it together, and we are still working on a web page coming soon. With that, hope everybody had a Merry Christmas. Hope you guys have a good New Year coming around. Remember, don't drink and drive.
Without further ado,
Here it comes. So stupid.
toodaloo.
Yep. Yeah.